On this episode of On Tap, after years of visiting local establishments, the owners of LynLake Brewery in Minneapolis decided they wanted a place to call their own.
And the siblings behind 10K Brewing in Anoka take us on a journey from the start of construction to the grand opening.
Welcome and thank you for joining us for another episode of On Tap. We're here again at the beautiful Roadside in Blaine. I'm Ben Hale, joined by Danica Peterson. And today on the show, we've got a couple of flights of beer in front of us.
You can never go wrong with a beer flight.
You can never go wrong.
4 or 5 beers in one paddle.
Yeah, you get a little bit of everything, try different things. It's kind of a fun way to try different things. And then what I usually like to do is I get myself a flight, find what my favorite is, and then get a full one of that favorite. And it's a nice way to spend your evening.
Not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea. I'm starting off today with White Birch Brewing out of New Hampshire, and this is their double IPA. It's pretty good.
And I have 4 beers here from AleSmith out of San Diego. They're one of the newer beers in the state of Minnesota, and this here is their ESB.
Nice. Well, on today's show, we're going to take you to 2 different local breweries and share with you their story. First, we're going to start in the LynLake neighborhood of Minneapolis at LynLake Brewing. We start our conversation with one of their owners, Mark, by asking him a question I've always wanted to ask a brewer. Is owning a brewery as cool as it seems?
Oh, it's so cool. There is nothing. I love coming down here. It's fun working with the brewer staff, the taproom staff, and again, sitting at the bar and just talking to people. I walked by somebody just the other day, and he stopped me. There was 2 guys sitting at the bar, and I was walking by, and he stopped me and said, "Hey, you're one of the owners, right?" And I said, "Yeah." So we started chatting, and he said, "Thank you for bringing us to this area. We just love it here." So I mean, that kind of adulation just makes you feel happy, and it is so fun. I'd recommend it to anybody.
The owners and head brewer of LynLake Brewery in Minneapolis have been on a wild ride the last couple of years as they took ownership of the old Lyndale Theater near the intersection of Lyndale and Lake Street and decided to turn it into a brewery. To get to this point took a lot of hard work and long hours.
We started looking for different spots around the Twin Cities area. Kind of ruled out Northeast because there's a good crew up there already. So let's explore other areas that might be looking for a brewery. So we looked at Wayzata, St. Louis Park, Edina, South Minneapolis, and then we actually, my wife and I were driving by here and saw that the theater had a for lease sign up. And so we came in here and took a look around and thought that this would be a really great location because it's a neighborhood feel. That's what we wanted to have. So it went out from there.
So this building used to be an antique store, but it had been vacant for roughly 8 years. Prior to that, it was a theater.
First time we came in, the brewery had a flat lay-in ceiling about 12 feet up. All the walls were covered with white sheetrock. So with the landlord's permission, we took a sledgehammer one Saturday, came in here and smashed down part of the walls to see what was underneath it, kind of hoping for this brick interior. So there was a layer of stucco, a layer of that old wood paneling, then a layer of sheetrock. So we pounded through all that, saw what it was going to look like. And so once we saw that, we said we got to do it. So then we jumped in and discovered that the ceiling was left over from the old theater. That was a fun surprise. And we started construction after that.
When did you first meet Joel and kind of start putting this team together?
We met Joel November of 2013. We were looking for a brewer, and through various means got introduced to Joel. Started tasting beer, talking about what he was looking for, talking about our ideas, what we wanted to do, and the ideas meshed right away. And so we quickly formed a partnership with Joel.
Like a lot of passionate brewers and home brewers, I started home brewing in 2004. Just really caught that bug and dove into it, read as many books as I could, publications, just to really build up my beer knowledge. Decided that this is what I wanted to do for a career. At the time I was in the wastewater construction business. Put a resume together based on my homebrew experience and awards and luck and timing. got a job at Great Waters Brewing Company, downtown St. Paul.
From there, Joel's career path took him to a small-town brew pub in Ely and then back to Minneapolis at Town Hall Brewery for 3 years. Now he has a brewery that is truly his and a brew house that he designed from the ground up.
So we have a 10-barrel brew house. It's from DME. We have 7 fermenters and 3 bright beer tanks. All the beer that we brew is put into those brights to clarify, and then we keg it off and bring it into our walk-in cooler where it is dispensed up to the bar in the tap room. 10-barrel brew house means we're brewing roughly 18 to 20 kegs per batch of each beer style. We've been brewing an average of 2 to 3 times per week over this last year, and brewed over, I think it was 108 batches of beer within one brew year, basically. Roughly almost 900 barrels of beer sold within that year. So.
Talk to us about your flagship beers that are here at LynLake that people can enjoy when they come in.
So we have 4 flagship beers, and the route we decided to go was to kind of hit all 4 corners of beer style or flavor that could really appeal to a broad group. First one is going to be Ponyboy Gold, which is our gold ale or blonde ale. That beer is meant to be a beer that emulates your cream ale or your Bud Miller Coors substitute. Appeal to the light lager drinkers, and also be flavorful enough in hop and malt profile that your craft beer drinker is going to enjoy it as well. It's got a good base of German Pilsner malt that really adds a nice depth of breadiness and kind of general sweetness to it that works well. Then we have our Rubbish Oat Amber, which is kind of a hybrid beer between an American Amber Ale and a Scotch Ale, very heavy on flaked oats to give it a creamy mouthfeel, a little bit of body. It's got a lot of toffee, caramel kind of flavors to it. So that's going to be a beer that's got a little more malt character, a little darker color, but still very drinkable to have more than 1 pint of that. Next, we moved into the IPA category because hops. Everyone's all about IPAs. Got to have that. So we have our Take 6 IPA. It's a beer that we pilot brewed, uses 6 varieties of hops, and it took us till about the 6th version of that pilot batch before we completely dialed it to a product that we were happy with running on the big system. So, Take 1, definitely a great beer, but with every version, we just made minor adjustments. So the name is Take 6, plays a little bit on the whole theater theme around here. And then Sideburns Oatmeal Raisin Milk Stout is a beer that we have on NITRO, very velvety, very smooth, oat heavy again, got that roast without being drying and overbearing, and then a little bit of that kind of fruity, deep caramel raisin thing going on. And NITRO pour just looks great with that beer. So,
as a brewer, is there a certain style that you tend to gravitate towards, do you feel like? Is there something that maybe you would feel like is your strong suit?
Here we've discovered within our first year that our malty beers are our strong suit. The Rubbish, the Sideburns. We also have a beer that's called Brimley. It's a big wee heavy. We've definitely been very satisfied with how those are turning out without a lot of adjustment. Some of the hoppier beers, we're waiting on our new crop year hop to kind of bring those to life a little bit more. So we're excited for that.
First of all, do you have a favorite beer that you've brewed? And then we can also talk about just a favorite beer in general.
Oh man, so the favorite beer here that I've brewed is always a tough one, because usually your mind and your brain is so excited about the current seasonal that you just brewed and how that's going to develop and what it's going to taste like on draft. We're now kind of going through our list of all the beers that we've brewed in the last year and definitely picking out those favorites, which We had a Windburn Red IPA that was 100% Falconer's Flight hops. That was pretty on point. That Brimley Wee Heavy is a strong, flavorful beer. It's got a decent alcohol content, but it's not overbearing in any way. We threw some of that in some Maker's Mark barrels, so I'm excited to see what happens there. And then there's a beer we're about to brew next week that we had brewed last year. It's kind of a smoked amber ale. It uses a blend of beechwood and cherrywood smoked malt. Turned out really cool, and we ended up putting some peaches on that beer, so kind of created that as a pecan pie, peach pecan pie thing, so that was pretty cool. Favorite beers when I'm out and about? Definitely, if I'm looking for a go-to that I know is going to be solid all the time, Steel Toe, size 7. Just always enjoy that beer. Those guys do a great job over there. You know, if every once in a while you gotta step back and stop trying to pick a beer apart. So I'll grab a Coors Banquet. You know, just enjoy something like that.
Both Mark and Joel see a lot of themselves in the atmosphere at LynLake.
Definitely, there was a lot of planning into layout of the brew house, cutting out pieces of paper with drawings on them, moving, sliding them around just to make use of space in here. So keeping it simple yet productive and effective. I think that's the biggest thumbprint I would have here right now. So.
The center bar, I love going to a restaurant or whatever and sitting at the bar. I'm not quite sure why, just kind of the center of the place. And so that particular element is what I really wanted to see, was a big bar people could sit around, because what we wanted here was a place to have a conversation. We don't want to be a sports bar or anything. We're a tap room, we have good quality beer, and where people come and talk. So, and to me, that bar adds to that.
One of the big showpiece center points is this graffiti wall, which is actually the elevator shaft up to our rooftop. This graffiti wall, it's done by an artist collective called Rogue Citizen. Just kind of helps set the tone for this fun kind of gritty energy that we want to have around here.
Now you guys just celebrated your first anniversary. Did the first year meet your expectations, exceed your expectations? What was the first year for you?
It actually exceeded our expectations in terms of the sales side of things. Joel's exceeded our expectations on our plan and the number of type of seasonals we could have. The flagships have been well received in the marketplace, and so that's exceeded our expectations. The rooftop was fun to see, just a hint of that last October when we opened up, and through the summer it was really fun to see what that did. So there's been absolutely no disappointments in the business so far. It's been a blast.
Discussions for future distribution efforts are underway, but the tap room will always remain the focus at LynLake, where you are invited to pull up a chair to the big center bar and enjoy some delicious beer.
Hopefully, one of our 10 to 12 beers we have on tap, you can find something that you're going to enjoy.
Thanks again to Mark and Joel for having us out at LynLake. It definitely was a great place, and as Joel said at the end there, they have several different beers on tap, 10, 12, 14 beers at a time, and I tell you, we definitely found something that we liked while we were there, several things that we liked while we were there. It was a good time at LynLake.
Yeah. As we move along our flights here, I am onto my IPA from A.L. Smith, and it is delightfully grapefruity.
Nice. And I have moved on to a NITRO pour, so it's super smooth, creamy, kind of velvety. This is the Odell's Cutthroat Porter. Delicious.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ben enjoys that. Now we're going to take a look at 10K Brewing in Anoka. Brand new, just recently opened, only Anoka County's second brewery, and we had the ability to follow them along their journey over the last year as they got ready to open.
I started brewing at home a few years ago. It was actually after my fiance gave me a home brew kit. It was just a little 1 gallon all grain brewing kit. And from the beginning I brewed with all grain, and I started brewing very, very frequently. I brewed, a batch a week to 2 batches a week to even 3 batches a week at some times. At this very same time, I was traveling the country for my job. I was a computer engineer, and as I went site to site, I'd spend a week in these different cities and try to find things to do, things that are new. One of the things that I did is I tried to go to breweries and tap rooms. I sometimes would go to 3, 4, even 5 of them during the course of a week when I go to these different cities and try them out. So over the course of a few months, I started coming up with the idea of potentially having a tap room here in Minnesota, and I knew right away I wanted it to be in Anoka.
Making the jump from I like brewing in my kitchen on Saturdays to I want to do this all day, every day. Kind of a big step. Yeah. How'd you get there?
I knew from the beginning that starting a brewery or any business you can't do without a partner. I've had a lot of experience in the past helping out at previous jobs at an ownership level. And the biggest thing that I learned is doing something by yourself that never works out well in the end. So I knew I needed a partner. And I started, when I started searching for one, it never really occurred to me that partner in this business could be somebody from my own family.
A year ago, we were sitting at my parents' house, and my brother was telling us this grand idea he had to eventually open a tap room, and I said, let's do it. And that's kind of how it started. When I brought the idea up with my sister, she was immediately on board with it. And through this process, I think things went much better with us than it would have with somebody who wasn't from the family, because we've had, years and years and years to grow together and learn what each other likes and dislikes. My mom thought we were crazy, and my brother had all his ducks in a row, and he kind of had the vision kind of planned out, and so we just hit the pavement running and went full force.
What comes first? Licensing, buildings?
Initially, we went looking for a commercial space. We're from Coon Rapids. We grew up in this area. My brother lives a few blocks away in Anoka, and so he said that he definitely wanted to be in downtown Anoka and bring craft brew to Anoka, because there's nothing like it around here. So we started looking at different spaces. We found this one. We were lucky enough that there were 2 adjacent spaces available, so we got in while we could and started to form a plan to create our tap room.
Talk about some of the things that you learned from construction and some of the surprises you found along the way.
This building is 135 years old, so it's not like just standing up a new building where you can, everything's essentially, I would say, almost easy, because something doesn't work, you just knock the wall down, put something else there. We have to work with a building where we want to maintain its original historic character. So we had to be able to demo the old walls, the old ceiling, the old floors without harming the original brick walls, the original hardwood floors, and the original 16-foot ceilings behind those.
The brick walls are from the original building built in the late 1880s. One thing we did notice is that when we tore the 5 layers of lath and plaster and sheetrock off the walls, was that the one side of the brick was all completely charred and burnt, because there had been a fire in the building at some point. So it took us a week to hand scrub and sand off all of that black soot so that we could get it down to the original brick.
We had to put in the effort to be able to restore the original plaster ceilings to make them safe again, restore the floors, put back the boards that were pulled up over the years, and clean up the brick walls so you don't get brick dust in your beer when you're sitting there drinking and enjoying it.
Our father owns a construction company, and he was obviously our best choice to help us out. So this is his creation. He literally did everything in here.
We have an older building here, and its beauty was just hidden behind these layers and layers of flooring and walls. We were able to pull all that out of here so we could see the original bricks, we could see the original hardwood floors. It's truly amazing, and it's probably the thing that we get the most comments on when people come in here.
And then the bathrooms. There's a lot of money in those bathroom floors.
The bathrooms, so I can honestly say my Pinterest addiction paid off, because a lot of my ideas I got from that, and one of them was our penny floors. which at the time, you know, when you see it and you watch a YouTube video, this is great. Yeah, I could do this. Fast forward 3 weeks later, when you don't want to be sitting in a bathroom placing pennies on a floor one by one, you know, and you're just ready to give up. But that's actually one of my favorite things now. I've got about 37,000 pennies on the floor, all placed by hand.
There was a lot of challenges that we needed to do to be able to get to that point. A lot of it was around, you know, getting all of our licensing, changing some zoning laws, doing things like that. The process, I guess, for paperwork to get a brewery going, you know, took us a year. It took us just as long as it did to actually design and construct the brewery itself.
Parts of it were going to the city and changing zoning laws so that breweries and tap rooms and microbreweries could be allowed in this part of downtown Anoka. Changing the liquor laws and making sure that we can manufacture and sell our beer on site, and doing Sunday growler sales.
You come into our brewery and our tap room, you can actually see our brewing system right behind the bar where we serve the beer that we made on it. It's small, it's at 3 barrels, but it allows us to be able to create true craft beer, microbrewed craft beer. You can't get that in very many places in Minnesota. You can't get that in many places in the United States. Everything that we do here is done by hand. I lift the grain bags downstairs. When they're ready to mill, I lift them upstairs. I mill them by hand. Everything is poured, lifted, transferred, everything by hand. And that results in a really unique brew that you can't get anywhere else. It gives me the ability to take risks where normal brewers that have a very, very large system can't take as many risks because their grain bill, their hop bill, their yeast bill, it costs much more, whereas mine is much smaller. So it allows me to be able to essentially brew a different beer every week.
Let's talk about the beers.
So for the most part with our beer, since we are new and we're starting out probably for the first year, we are going to be experimenting with a new beer every week, which means when you come in here, you can actually see a new beer each time. In fact, month to month, our tap will actually be completely different than it was the prior month.
So 10K Brewing stands for brewed in the land of 10,000 lakes. My brother came up with that long before this process even started, because we are from Coon Rapids, Anoka. We love the area, we love Minnesota. You know, we both have had the opportunity in our careers to travel the country, travel the world, do different things, and there's nothing better than coming home. And so we really wanted to focus on our Minnesota roots. Our whole thing is nice beer, nice people, and that's what we really strive to maintain.
So it's going to be quite fun for the first year or two here as we determine which beers that our customers love the most. And I always want to try to maintain new beers as well. So when we do determine beers that people love and we want to keep on tap, I want to try different variations of those beers. I want to try maintain seasonal beers, maintain specialty beers at the same time. Since our brew system is so small, a beer will only stay on tap for a week, 2 weeks, maybe 3 weeks, and then we can have a new beer on tap after that, whether it's the same beer or whether it's something new that we tried.
All of our beers are going to be named or, you know, based off of Minnesota things, Anoka things. We want to keep it really local.
Did you have any major fears leading into opening?
I had nightmares leading up to the opening of the brewery, and each night it would be just something small, like the electronic menu board wouldn't work or wouldn't display correctly, or I'd have something wrong up there. The draft tower wouldn't dispense beer. There's thousands of things that could go wrong that could really just put a stop to the night. And when you have a crowd of, 100, 150 people filtering in and out of here, and you have over the course of a weekend 1,000 people coming in and out of this building, one little failure like that, turns all those people away, and then our successful grand opening goes to nothing. So it was very nervous about just about everything.
On Saturday night, we opened our doors, and the flood of everybody who had been anticipating our opening came in, and it was really awesome to see all that support.
Opening weekend was very successful. We had a line around the block, and I was actually greeting people at the door as they came in here, and I thought it would be a really quick process. Unfortunately, it was close to 30 degrees out, and I had a t-shirt on, and I was freezing as it got down to the end of the line, and the line just almost never ended because people just kept coming and coming and coming, and eventually I had to get pulled away to change a keg out, fortunately, but it was amazing to see such a crowd of people just flowing into this brewery and seeing it packed for the first time.
And then how did you sleep when the weekend was over?
I slept like a baby. It was nice because we worked so hard, and it was a lot of 3 a.m. nights leading up to that opening. We were all very tired at the end of the day, and I actually went, at the end of our first night, we went to Denny's with my fiance and got some dinner, and we went home, and we barely made it into the bed. It was like hanging half offside the bed, sleeping, and waking up in the morning knowing that you had such a successful night and that the next day was going to be so successful made this project worth it.
The one thing that I did notice over our grand opening, is he watching me? Is that he's normally kind of a shy person, and I think over our grand opening he got to see how his hard work and effort and his creation that he put into this beer, how people liked it. I saw that it gave him a sense of confidence, so it was so cool for me to be standing behind the bar and look out and see my brother just glowing, smiling, chatting with everybody, being that social butterfly that I usually don't see him doing, but I think that he realized that we did it. This is awesome. We worked on this together, and people love his beer.
Where do you want 10K to go in the next year?
You know, in the next year, I want us to be able to get to a point where we are a place that people know about, and people want to come to still, even after trying the beer month after month after month. That's kind of why we are trying to do a rotating selection of beer. So this is a place that's always changing. It's not just the same place where you get the same beer every time that you come in here. So if we're at that point a year from now where people go, hey, let's go to 10K because they have all new beers. Hey, how do you know that? Oh, because they always have a good rotating selection. If we're at that point a year from now, I know that we'll definitely have been successful.
And I, for one, am excited to see where 10K does go in the future and see where breweries in Anoka County go in the future as well.
For sure. Well, you caught me taking a sip as we came back there of my next beer on my flight, because we got to finish them up here as we're about to wrap up the show. So I've got just a gold standard for me. I love this beer. It's Lagunitas Brown Sugar, an American strong ale. It's delicious every time.
Originally brewed by accident.
Yes, and I just
A glorious accident.
Best accident at Lagunitas ever. Anyways, I'm gonna finish up. I'm bringing it back local. I'm going to Anoka County's other brewery,
Sure.
Hammerheart. This is their barrel-aged Flannery, it's their oatmeal stout.
I bet it's smoky.
It is smoky. Ooh, and it's got that nice boozy flavor from the barrel aging.
Sure.
Delicious. Yeah, I like it.
And I'm going to keep going with my AleSmiths here. I have their Grand Cru. It's got a Belgian-y thing going on. That's quite nice. And then obviously the final beer on any flight should be a stout. I mean, if you're doing it well. Mm-hmm. And this is their Speedway Stout, and it's delicious.
You don't even know.
I do.
Oh, you do?
I do.
You do know.
So if you were getting a pint of your favorite, what would it
Oh,
be?
and that Flannery's was really good. I also always loved the brown sugar. These last two definitely were delicious. But you couldn't go wrong with anything it had, which is the great part, and then always the dilemma of a flight.
What's next?
What's next?
Right.
Exactly.
Maybe another flight.
Yeah. Maybe another flight. That's always another good way to go.
Though, not for us.
Well, that's going to wrap it up for this episode of On Tap. We hope you enjoyed taking a look at both LynLake Brewery and also taking a look at 10K Brewing, a couple of great local breweries for you to try out. And especially as winter comes, winter's just a great beer season.
The finest beer season.
The finest beer season. So many delicious stouts and porters and winter ales. It's just,
They're rich and complex.
Yes.
Not like the spring.
I love it. I love it. So enjoy some good winter beer this season, and we'll see you for another episode of On Tap real soon. So remember, always drink good beer and drink it responsibly.
This episode of On Tap is brought to you in part by The Roadside, an independent restaurant in Blaine serving gourmet tacos, burgers, beer, and more.